That's surprising. They actually aren't here. At least right now, anyways. I know it's been a while, but they didn't up and ditch the place, did they? No, they easily could. What's this? Frozen. It's time I explain things. Obviously, you won't cooperate given that you just up and left for a year. We need to catch up. Meet me at the destination below. Okay, obviously that's chaos and this very much could be a trap, but why would he write it in a letter and just leave it here? Actually, no, he couldn't have just left it. It wouldn't make sense to leave this here for months. He can't just be waiting every day hoping I see it. It would have had to have been put here today, which is odd in its own right. How would he have known to leave it here today? I have a feeling I'll get my answer soon enough. Space Jam, a movie about the anime totally insane. Wait, my bad, wrong Warner Brothers cartoon. Let's rewind that. Space Jam, a movie about the Looney Tunes challenging aliens to a game of basketball before said aliens take the talent of some of the best NBA players, leading to the Toon Squad needing the assistance of Michael Jordan to get back the talent of the NBA players and make sure the Looney Tunes aren't enslaved. Yeah, that synopsis was weird, and the collaboration itself is even weirder. Someone said it was the Kingdom Hearts equivalent of movies, and considering people's reaction to Space Jam 2, that seems to be very much the case. At the very least, it is remembered very well due to the bountiful amount of Space Jam remixes, and...
Hey, nice playing with you.
I will leave it at that. Alongside the infamy of this movie came a video game just like so many other movies, and this was back when E for everyone was K through A, kids through adults, making this the oldest game I've reviewed so far. I doubt that a majority of you watching this have even touched this game honestly, but I'm beginning to ramble at this point. So today, I'll be looking at the Space Jam video game to acknowledge the legacy of this extremely strange movie. Being real here, there's pretty much nothing, or at the very least nothing in terms of the story being explained in-game. The manual has something which I refuse to read out. This is cringy even by my little standards. You can read it on screen if you want. It might as well be the movie's plot, but even with the manual's description, it's so abridged with so little detail to the point where you're kinda left wondering how we even got to this point. There's also an intergalactic tournament in the game, which still doesn't give any story. Granted, when it comes to license-based games, it's assumed that you've already seen the source material, especially given that this is Space Jam, so I can't blame the game for not doing much with it. At the same time though, I'd rather not go on a streak of games with hardly any story, because then that starts getting repetitive. I'll start off with probably the best thing about this game, that being the sprites and animation. They give a lot of expression for the characters. This is especially true during the character select screen, as each character has their own intro animations for when they are chosen, as well as particular actions done during gameplay. Given that these are Looney Tunes characters, this level of quality is to be expected, and thankfully, it's well met with a large number of animators. The only exception to this is Michael Jordan because he needs the milk. I guess it does make sense though, as he's the only real-life human in the entire game, and it gives an accurate representation of the difference between him and the Looney Tunes characters, so... props? Environments look pretty nice too. Just as colorful as the characters with a bunch of Looney Tunes characters in the bleachers, and surprisingly there's even McDonald's as a sponsor. Never thought I'd bring up McDonald's as a legitimate thing in a video. Anyways, now I'll follow that up with one of the worst things about this game, the music. For one, there are only 8 songs in the game from what I can even recall, with half of it being generic and unmemorable, and the other half being for minigames which you are able to turn off. Also, the most glaring issue with this is that there is no music for the basketball games. Yep, it's just audience ambience, the squeaking of shoes, and the basketball. It's like those memes of a concert or something that's normally loud and they're edited to just have sound effects. Except it's real, and I'm deeply wondering why there's not a song for this. Now, what I said isn't entirely true. There is commentary given during a game by an announcer, and by the way, there's no listing for the voice work anywhere, so that's fun. However, said commentary is usually just stuff I feel any basketball game would have if it has commentary. Insert character shoots, insert character / team scores, end of insert quarter / game. There are some references to Looney Tunes here and there,
I thought I saw a putty tack.
but that's pretty rare compared to everything else. There is also commentary given by Huey and Birdie between each quarter, which is accurate to the movie, just like how Granny and Witch Hazel are cheerleaders and how Marvin the Martian is the referee. Oh, and one more thing. Get used to this one load screen because you'll be seeing it 95% of the time the game loads. It's a callback to this poster for the movie, which is a clever use for it, but this got annoying to look at extremely fast. In this game, you're playing basketball, obviously. If you haven't figured that out yet, I'm questioning your intelligence. Despite that, there are differences between this game and the actual sport. For one, you can only play 3-on-3 or 2-on-2 matches as opposed to 5-on-5, which leads to choosing players. Whether you're on the Toon Squad or on the Monstars, you choose 2 or 3 characters to play as, with each of them having varying stats for shooting, rebounding, and speed. The other difference is that most of the normal rules don't apply here. I mean, regular shots, 3-pointers, dunks, rebounds, steals, and of course, the team that wins is the one with the most points by the end is still a thing. But there are no free throws, you physically are unable to double dribble, and the only foul in the game is goaltending, which you can turn off. This means you can shove people all you want along with bumping into other people in midair. Oh, and everyone has the ability to sprint for a short amount of time. In between each quarter, you can choose to substitute a player for someone else. You're also able to play one of 4 minigames, if you have them turned on, to try and increase the stats for your team. 3 of them are available after the first and third quarter. One of them is Shootout, a basketball scoring contest between Yosemite Sam and Bang. Where you are when you try to take a shot determines the amount of points you get for making it. There's also a moving circle that doubles the points when shooting from within it. The second minigame that makes your rebounds better is Hall of Hijinks. Lola and Bupkis must rebound basketballs and pass them into targets to get a better score than the other. The final one during this period is Space Race. As either Blanco or Speedy Gonzalez, you race spaceships to get faster running speed. While maneuvering around obstacles and shooting missiles at the opponent, this gauge fills up. By outrunning the enemy, this gauge goes into your meter. Whoever fills up that meter first wins. There's one other minigame that's available after the second quarter, Halftime Locker Room Rumpus. This is either Tune-Up Search or Essence Roundup depending on the team. For Tune-Up Search, Bugs goes from locker to locker to gather as many water bottles as he can while dodging attacks from Monstars. Essence Roundup has a Monstar control a purple vapor that tries to capture as much Super Essence from basketball players, while the Toon Squad stops them. Regardless of which team it is, this results in better sprinting assuming you do good in the minigame. Lastly, you can enter the Intergalactic Tournament where you have to win 5 games in a row against the Monstars. However, there are some limitations. 1. The first character you select is the captain, and they must be in every game. 2. The other teammates can only be used once per game. After they play a game, they become unavailable for the rest of the tournament. The Monstars don't follow this rule though, probably because there's only 5 of them. And 3. You aren't able to substitute characters between quarters. The minigames are pretty enjoyable. They are over pretty quickly with the possible exception for the speed race as that one doesn't have a timer. But even then, due to how the minigame works, the races lasting longer builds more excitement for it. The bonuses that they give also do matter, especially for characters that have lower stats than others. Trust me, shooting and speed are very noticeable between characters. There's also the big risk/reward aspect of it as well, because in winning, you will get the boosted stats, but if you lose, your opponent gets the boost instead, meaning you'll have to decide between potentially helping yourself or helping the opponent, or do nothing and try to beat the opponent with pure skill, assuming you have the minigames turned on anyways. While the minigames are fun and all, the main stuff, you know, the basketball part of this basketball game, is not that enjoyable. Again, the lack of music already makes the games boring, but the game in nature is in the same realm. Due to the simplicity of the controls and mechanics, there's not many options you're able to do to spice the game up or even make it unique. That's kind of a problem when you have Looney Tunes characters as a major part of the game. Dunking is the most broken mechanic in the entire game, as there is no way to counter it once they start, and is a surefire way to score points. The best you can do is prevent it beforehand by shoving the opponent, which can very often feel clunky, and some characters are faster than others, making this very difficult to do. There's even special versions for the Toon Squad that last longer, which can be useful to run the clock, unless it's in the last couple of seconds where it can keep you from scoring. The problem with these special versions is that I have no idea how to do them, because the manual doesn't explain how, so it just feels random, albeit useful. Because of this, you won't bother shooting baskets as the chances of you missing are fairly high, especially depending on the character, resulting in a constant back and forth where both teams just sprint towards the goal and dunk, which makes the game boring very quickly. Another major problem is that there's just no content aside from regular games in the intergalactic tournament. There's no special challenges or other possible game modes that could change how the game is played drastically. There's not even an alternate court to play on like the gym or that playground from the movie either. If we really wanted to be creative, we could have done something on Moron Mountain. Plus, the content that is here is subpar at best. Sure, you can customize the games a bit with the length of quarters and having minigames and goaltending on or off, which for your sake make the quarter shorter than 3 minutes and keep the minigames or you're gonna drive yourself insane if not bored. And 2v2 does feel different, but it's not enough. The intergalactic tournament doesn't have much to offer too, as again, there's pretty much no story to begin with, let alone develop. You're in the same environment doing the same thing the whole time, and you also can't save in the middle of tournaments, so you'd have to do it all in one sitting. And even after doing all of that, you don't unlock a thing for beating it. You don't even get the ability to play as Michael Jordan in the tournament mode, which at this point is the only thing you can imagine left. I'd even try and give the tournament the benefit of the doubt by unlocking the credits, but they play after normal games every time anyways, and you can play as Michael Jordan from the get-go in the regular games, so there's no reason to even play the tournament mode. This just gives the "that's all folks" slogan a new meaning, and I hate it. So there is multiplayer for this game. In fact, you can do everything in multiplayer, including the tournament mode. Normally, I don't have an issue with this, but if you're playing on the PS1, you could only use 2 controllers. However, you are able to use the PlayStation multi-tap to bring that up to 4. Nowadays, getting one isn't that expensive. If you're reasonable, you can get them online for like $15 max, but back then, these things sold for $50. That's also the same price PS1 games were at the time, but I'll try to be lenient and assume Space Jam would have been $40. But in order to play with 6 people, you would need to get 2 of them for $100 before taxes. That's a lot of money regardless of the era for a multiplayer expansion that seems to be promoted very strongly for basketball games and almost nothing else. And need I mention that you need to buy the extra controllers too, assuming your friends don't have them already? Granted, not everyone needs to get a multi-tap if you don't play multiplayer games like that anyways, and even if you did, there were other games that used it. But having to pay double the price of this game minimum just for any extensive multiplayer is excessive to say the least. Luckily for me, I'm playing on my PS3, so I have the ability for 4 players by default at least. Not sure if I'm able to play it with 6 people though. Should I have expected to not like this game? Honestly, yes, but going into games expecting the worst isn't how I do things here. At least, normally. I feel that a lot of this game's problems revolve around its simplicity. Keep in mind that simplicity doesn't automatically mean bad, but in the case of this game, it doesn't feel loony enough. Heck, it's too safe if anything. Hardly any story, half of the 2 game modes are completely void, and the main appeal of the game gets stale after a few minutes. You wouldn't expect so little content and gameplay variety from a game involving Looney Tunes characters. Now, this isn't exactly fair to say given generation differences, but NBA Street Home Court, a far more realistic looking yet similar game, has more wacky and fun stuff about pretty much every aspect of it. And I try to say that this game would add to Space Jam's infamy, but considering it's the oldest game on my channel, how many of you even knew about it before coming to this video? So, you made it. So I have. You really gonna start telling me stuff? As long as the end of our old agreement still holds true. Yes. Tell me everything, then I drink that potion of yours. Which, given by the nature of your letter, I'm assuming you have it with you now? Okay then. Firstly, why did you write it in a physical letter? Seems kinda odd, given that we have multi-dimensional communicators and all. I didn't want computer hearing us. That's also why I chose this location to meet. Didn't want any possible electronics nearby he could sync with. Okay, now the bigger question. How'd you know to set down the letter today? You caught on to that, but I guess you don't know. Or rather, you have a hunch, and I want answers. Cut out this middleman stuff and just tell me, or I'm leaving. Fine. I am you in the future. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. So, Space Jam, that's a very interesting topic as of recently. Definitely one of the weirdest movies to ever exist, but I'd say it still gives a good laugh every now and then, for various different reasons, both good and bad, but a very fun movie, to say the least. And also, lore stuff is coming back, for those of you that don't know, for like the past year, because I know a lot of people have come around in the last year, and I know for a fact they're not going to know what I'm talking about. So for those of you that don't have an idea about any of that, make sure you watch some of the other videos that I have in the playlist that I have on the channel that have specifically the lore stuff, because at one point I wanted to implement that into my videos, and then I kind of just took a huge break from that, but now I'm getting back into that, so, you know, that's fun. But anyways, if you have not already, make sure you go down to the description below, because that's where all of my social medias are located. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord are all in the description, and they are all ways for you guys to be updated on the channel, as well as future videos. I also have my Patreon in the description, and for $1 a month, you get to view these videos a week earlier than everyone on YouTube. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until the next video, take care.